Everybody say it now. Everybody say it now.
Have you ever thought of life in terms of sailing?
Like on a boat?
Yeah.
You know what? Strange you say. Yes, many times actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you sailing right now? What type of winds are you in right
You
now?
know, I actually, it's for me, I really like the imagery of like a boat on the open ocean, especially a sailboat, because of course it's like wind powered, and now you've got some like a lot more elements involved in it. And and this is a strange. Do you know the movie Master and Commander?
Oh, with
Russell Crowe, and it's kind of like this Darwin-esque British colonial kind of period. And I like the idea that you could take a whole bunch of humans and put them isolated in essentially the middle of nowhere, like in the middle of nowhere in the South Pacific Ocean. But the laws that that they've been bounded by their home country, which is like thousands of umpteenth whatever's away, still reside on this boat in the middle of the ocean that have no connection to anything anywhere.
right, like Moby Dick.
Exactly,
Mm.
exactly. And so it's funny you say it because I have a tall ship tattooed on my arm
Oh, it's a very beautiful tattoo.
for that very reason, because I love that imagery of like a boat on the water.
And there's a compass as well.
There's a compass as well.
Right. Which way is your compass pointing?
So I didn't when I asked the tattoo artist to do this, I never asked him what direction. He never asked me what direction it should go to. So this one's pointing south southeast, which is it should be north northwest. You know, because I'm from Vancouver Island, and that's the north northwest of kind of.
And I'm from the Vancouver Island.
And
as
you're
well,
also
yes.
from Vancouver Island, and it's funny. There is a tremendous amount of people with compass and anchor tattoos, and I think because that imagery resonates with a lot of people.
Right. And where we're from, we say the island.
Yeah, the island.
We say we're from the island. Do you ever go traveling and say, someone asks you, hey, where are you from? And you say the island.
Oh, all the time.
And you're in, Florida, and they're going, what island?
What island is that?
Yeah, and you're trying to explain them.
And I'm like, the big one.
The big one.
The big one.
And I don't think it's that recognizable.
No.
Internationally.
Well, especially too, because you've got Vancouver, North Vancouver, West Vancouver, Vancouver Island. It's like, where are you from again? Like, where is that all one place? Or I guess it is considerably all one place, but I just thought it was weird that they named it Vancouver Island, like it.
Yeah,
because most people call a lot of people call it Victoria Island.
Right. Well, we spend a lot of time on the boat, going in between the island.
Countless trips.
And that's where I find a lot of creativity comes to me on this boat. But it's not a sailboat; it's a ferry. So there's a big difference between the two.
Totally.
The means of travel. Maybe that's a good idea for today. This is the topic.
How to get off, the means of travel.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I like that, and I think sailboats are interesting because you really got to have not only like faith in your knowledge of where you are, but that there's going to be wind and that you're going to know what to do with it when it comes.
When it comes outside of your control.
Completely.
Yes. But it's so pleasant. Anchor, right? That idea of being anchored, and also the idea of the winds of change. You say sailing, right away it activates all these pleasant frames of life. So how's today going? Just sailing by,
Just sailing away.
And I think sometimes when you get too deep in it, you go, well, what happens when your boat's taken on water? Or I don't think we should go down that route. I think we should stick to because that's within the frame. Sailboats have sails.
A rudder.
A rudder. But then ABC. Sailboat, sails, sailing. Right? Sailboat, sails, sinking? No, that's not part of the frame.
I've actually got a story about a sinking sailboat.
Oh, okay.
So the first time I was ever actually on a sailboat, I was at a kids camp in summer. It's called Pacific Christian No, Pacific Center. Oh, I can't remember what it was.
Was it a Christian
It
camp?
was a lot. I mean, a lot of summer camps usually invoke, maybe not. There's no like Bible study or anything. There's no religious push, but they're put on by institutions and that are generally founded or have some kind of substance within the organized religion sphere. Anyways, it wasn't really, but we were just going, and you might know it's the Esquimalt Lagoon.
Oh yeah.
So in the Esquimalt Lagoon, for anybody who's familiar with that part of the island, the lagoon is cut in half, and on one side is a bird sanctuary that is still seawater, but it's very still, and there's not a lot of movement of the water, so it gets very murky. And I guess it's a bird sanctuary, so birds are always like defecating and doing their bird life things. And then on the other side is like the beautiful open ocean. So we're on like the bird sanctuary side where it's all murky, and like there was a little rock in the middle of it, and it was called Bird Turd Island because it was just covered in bird poo. And anyways, that was about 9 or 10 at this time, and they were like, "Okay, we're going. It's the sailing time of the week, the day." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." But we got on the boat, and there was already like a couple inches of water in the boat. And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, that's weird. I've never gotten in a boat that already had water in it. Usually that's something where I'm like, maybe we should get this out first." But they assured us it was fine. We all had life jackets on, and it's not like it was like I said, it's a very calm area, so there's no tide or real heavy movement or currents or anything like that. And then it was my job to be the water bailer. And once again, this is the first time I've ever been on a sailboat, so I was like, maybe this is just a regular thing on sailboats that they take on water. And so there's probably 8 or 9 kids and our little camp counselor there. And okay, we get pushed off the dock, and I'm bailing water out of like a 4-liter milk jug with the top cut off. And all of a sudden I'm starting to think to myself, like, there's a lot more water here than I'm able to like get out. Like, is anybody else noticing that this is a lot of water? And a couple minutes later, we're in the middle of the sanctuary, and we're like sinking. The boat is sinking. Like, I am half into the water, and I got my life jacket on, and that's when kind of the camp counselor was like, "This boat's sinking. Like, everybody stay calm, but just so you know, we're gonna have to get rescued right now." And you're a kid, right? Like, as long as your like point of authority is staying calm, generally you'll stay calm as well, right? It's when they start freaking out that you're like, okay, this adult is now in tattered sorts. So the camp counselor's getting a little bit frantic, and so the kids are starting to get a little bit frantic. And I remember just kind of thinking that, oh, like, I can see the shore. I know there's a boat. It's a sunny day. I got a life jacket on. Like, I knew I wasn't in real danger, but I did know that what was happening was abnormal to how the sailing day was probably supposed to go. And anyways, so yeah, next thing you know, the air horns, womp, 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 and the speedboats come out, and is everybody okay? And blah, blah, blah. And everybody was fine. And this is probably the grossest part of the story. The biggest kind of health concern that everybody had, aside from like, can you swim, or did you swallow any water, was that that a lot of the kids got rashes because the water was so murky from all the bird poo.
Yeah.
And I was getting rashed, and as I was walking up on shore, my feet are I can touch the bottom now, and it's really silty.
Oh yeah.
It's really squishy and silty, and I just knew what it was. I knew that I was just walking through countless years of compiled bird poo. And that was the first time I ever was on a sailboat or had any that was a boat that wasn't, powered by a gas motor or oars.
Right. Is this similar to Master and Commander? Is Russell Crowe's character the the cornerstone
Yeah.
of the story?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it
Yeah.
was as and I don't know why all of a sudden that by that I still hold that imagery pretty high. Maybe because I had this experience that was a little bit abnormal and still a little bit unsafe, but not out of the realm of where I was truly threatened. But yeah, it was kind of. I always like to tell that story because it's kind of strange that it was at a summer camp when I was a kid.
Yes. Yeah. Summer camp. Sometimes you go to summer camp and you go, "Oh, this is what happens at summer camp." When you pack your bags, you're ready to go.
This is different.
Next thing you know, you're in a getting choked out by, some kid at Christian camp,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Kids are giving you wedgies and pulling your hair out.
Yeah, exactly. Sinking in sailboats. Yeah, that's pretty wild. So you're pretty calm. You were calm
I was pretty calm. Yeah.
with the whole
Yeah.
scenario. You knew.
Well, I mean, it's like I felt safe already. Like I knew how to swim, and like I said, the bird sanctuary area is, although it's an open body of water, it's very calm. So I didn't feel threatened at all.
Oh, the question was more directed to you now. Do you find yourself as being at peace with the majority of things that go haywire in your life?
I mean, that's a tough one, Des. That's a real tough one because I'd like to say yes, but you could give me one situation and I could be really calm. But you give me that same situation and maybe I've not slept as well the night before, or maybe I didn't eat an appropriate amount of food before I undertook what I was doing, and it'll just change my reaction. Like maybe not outwardly, because I always want to try and make sure, like when you're a kid and you're like, hey, you should think before you speak.
Mm,
That kind of like internal monologue should go on before you react at any point. But yeah, I would like to say that I'm pretty calm, but I'm also a pretty wiry guy, and I'm very emotional, and I really enjoy that part of my personality. But that's maybe only things that affect me personally. I think in a group, um, it's it's even more important to stay consciously calm, because especially if you are in a leadership role in that group, and like I said, all of a sudden you start showing emotions that are getting at you, the rest of the group, and right, and then all of a sudden the kids on the boat are getting upset again, right? Because the camp counselor's like, frantic and doesn't know what to do. So I don't know how to, I don't know if I've ever really truly been tested in that kind of scenario. I don't know if I really want to be.
right. How about in the creative world as a musician or anything? Do you ever find yourself in murky water?
Oh gosh, yeah, heavens, yeah.
Or I guess within sailing, it would be more, you know,
What's the word? Tumultuous waters.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you know what I think I myself as a musician struggle with significantly is competency. The level of competency and the fluidity that some people and some musicians have with not only the organization of theoretical practice, but how they apply that theory to their own technique. And that's a world where I'm like, it's like when someone says, "How do you write a song?" I say, "I don't really write a song. I just wait for it to come to me." And
Oh, the wind.
and yeah,
Yeah.
if the wind comes and all of a sudden it speaks to me, that's it. But I don't sit down and say, "Hey, like I'm gonna write a song about X or Y." So yeah, I struggle significantly with what it's like to be a competent musician, because there's so much out there. Like,
So this is something that's very helpful. I found recently was you have the big wind, right? You got the big wind in life you're waiting for, right? And that's going to take you on your journey. But you wake up every day and you look outside your window, and you gotta roll with what's going on. And the majority of my life right now is calm seas, little breeze, you know. But then all of a sudden, halfway through your day, it goes crazy. It's just you had no idea it was going to turn into a tsunami. Sometimes you're in the eye of the storm. You're just looking around at you, going like, "I can't believe." When you take BC ferries,
yeah,
it's just like you're looking at all the chaos around you, kids running around, and for me, I'm in the eye of the storm. I can stay at calm. I'm at peace in hectic environments. But some people they can't handle it. Like
totally.
when they're on that ferry, they can't find peace of mind. They can't think to themselves, and they get annoyed by any little thing. And what I'm getting at is, you got to roll with what you get sometimes.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point, man, because you could think till you're blue in the face about what it is that you want to do, or what you think that your skills would be best applied to. But if that scenario doesn't present itself, there's only so much that you can manifest as an individual before you can say, hey, like, I thought of that. Like, I'm an intricate part of that dynamic, where it's like when, it's like, say you just learned, like when I first started learning how to play guitar on my first band that I played in high school, I thought that was it. When I joined that band and we were playing Sloan, Underwhelmed, and some Alice in Chains covers and some original stuff, I was like, this is it. We're on our way. So what did I do? I went out and bought an orange cab, like an orange
Oh
amplifier
yeah, yeah.
cab, a 2x2 12-inch cab with an orange head, and this thing cranked. It cranked. I couldn't believe they sold it to me, to be honest. I was like 17 years old. I was putting it on a credit card that had my mom's name on it. And it was like $2,100. And I honestly was blown away they let me buy it. But they did. And I took it right away. And I trugged it over to my buddy's basement, plugged it in, and he had a Marshall stack, and we were on our way, man. And then next thing you know, we graduated high school, which was like 3 months later, and everything just dissolved. He didn't want to play in the band anymore. The bass player was leaving town, and all of a sudden everything was gone. And so there I am standing there like playing my power chords on my Gibson SG out of an orange cab in my garage by myself. And I had totally and completely outmatched my resource. Like I had outmatched my resource with my output. My output had been stagnant, but now my resource was way high. Like I had all this development, but I had no way to put it anywhere. And I thought that was a good lesson for me to realize that it doesn't matter how much I think something can happen or how much I want something to happen. It doesn't mean that it will, but it also doesn't mean that you should stop thinking about that happening. It's like the match, like I said, the matching, I hope that's making sense, the matching of like what my ability within my resource is and what is my output because of that resource. And they have to be at least in line with each other within a couple degrees.
Right. And then you find yourself in this limbo state, or you find this. There is a similarity between the before starting state and the reiteration state, where you spin in circles. You know, uh, but I'd rather be in the things are about to start state. You know, new beginning, new start, and I feel like this is a new beginning and a new start.
Hmm.
You know, this idea of talking in microphones and sharing our thoughts. But the reason why I feel like this podcast is important is because there are so many choices for means of travel for goal setting. And sailing is one people don't talk about very often. You know, people usually, when I say, "Hey, let's you and I let's do something," like we got a goal, we're gonna. Usually, it's a vehicle. You know, one of us is in the driver's seat, one of us is in the passenger seat. We drive. We have gas, and there's traffic.
We
You
have
know, it's
somewhere that we think we're going.
somewhere we think we're going. But sailing is the destination is in that sailboat, floating. You know,
I might even, and I don't mean to cut you off there, but I feel like if you're driving in a car, the purpose is not to drive in the car. The purpose is to get where you're going. But if you're sailing on a boat, the point is sailing, not where you're sailing to. The point is to sail.
yeah.
So it is that you're exactly right, that it's that medium ground, it's that middle ground, that like that's the purpose, is to negotiate inside of that scenario, not like, oh, well, let's go over to that shore, or let's go, over to that island or what have you.
And let's not completely write off other means of travel in order to set goals and to align with people in those goals. Vehicles work. They have a certain purpose, but for creativity and for songwriting, and I think sailing is just more creative, and it allows more freedom in the creative world.
Why do you think that is?
Probably because it harnesses nature.
Yeah, that's why I was
That's
hoping you were going to go with that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a fist pound
Yeah,
moment.
I was hoping you were going to
Yeah.
go to that. Like, it's because in a car you have to get gas, and then you have to buy the gas. That fuel has to be refined, and it gets dug up, and all this kind of thing. Where you got a sheet, and like essentially you got a sheet and some string. You got a boat. You're starting yourself on some kind of shoot.
Yeah. The next time we do a podcast, we'll talk about probably uh, creativity in terms of gardening,
Right. Yeah.
because that one's way better than industrial and assembly line language
Mhm.
usually. And this is the hope for the podcast, is to reframe positive, creative um, vocabulary in creative spaces.
And be able to extract it basically out of whatever it is that you're doing. I mean, there is a lot of people who would consider a assembly line as a piece of art. Somebody with like mechanical engineering, something along those lines, would look at some kind of mechanism that works to a very particular and exact degree of efficiency as being a piece of art.
I'm all for being industrious. Let's be industrious, you know? That's great. But I feel like in the time we're in, it's too industrial. It's we live in a very industrial world.
Oh,
It's easy. It comes naturally. You grow up being mindful of nature. We live in the city now. We're no longer on the island. We have to somehow find ways to get back to that source or back to our roots. So,
yeah.
how are we going to do it? This conversation.
We're doing it.
We're doing it right
now, man. We're doing it right now, man.
Earth to this moment. Yeah. So I feel like turning the conversation to our listeners, be mindful of what options you have out there. Stick around for more conversations with us. We'd like to invite you in the room.
Come on in.
Send us messages.
Yeah. I think that's one of the great things about any kind of audio content, whether it be its terrestrial radio beginnings or this new podcasting idea that's came upon us, is that it's always about invitation to who's listening. I'm here talking to you, and you and I are here, but you're listening out there. And at a point in time where this conversation was not happening, and to be able to communicate to us in that moment through what we were speaking about in the future is like a beautiful kind of communicative tool.
Mm.
One that is actually kind of the opposite of radio, because radio was always live, and you're never as soon as they were like, hey, let's record this and put it on the internet as a podcast, it ceases to become radio and now becomes a podcast. Right? Because I love radio. I always have. Radio was my first true creative passion. And it's because of that immediacy and because of that like finite ability to communicate is what drew me towards it, because you can't go back.
Oh, no. And you can't unedit this stuff.
You can't unedit that. Just for everyone out there, my laundry's done.
Okay, that's it for our podcast. Earth to Des. Bon voyage, everybody. Woody's going to go answer his phone. What a great way to end. And the music plays us out.
Talk about love, talk about the future.